Hello, Libra, and welcome. Okay, if I can get my cards together. Welcome to your April Soul Session. I'm Princess India if you're new, and if you're family, welcome back, my friend. And if you're not familiar with what my soul sessions are, they are your spirituality as well as personal, development readings in which we look at the energies that you guys may encounter this month for the purpose of giving you clarity, guidance, and advice in reference to said situation. So, first card that we have that popped out is the Six of Swords, my wonderful Libra. So what it's looking like is leaving out of March and coming into April. You guys are entering more calmer waters, if you will, the calmer waters of your mind. So it's more or less coming from a place of, I want to say instability. That may not be so for a lot of you because I just feel the vibration of the word instability. Oh, hello. The vibration of the word instability, the tower just fell out, that Scorpio energy. The vibration of instability felt like a lot, like it felt kind of heavy. So, I mean, it literally could be something as simple as confusion. It's kind of reminding me of the energy I felt both for Leo, similar to what I felt for both Leo as well as Virgo. But not, it's in essence, it's the same, but situationally is how I want to say it. Like for your experience, it would be different, but at the heart of it, it's similar in the sense that it's more or less an upset in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Because with Leo, it was more about desiring to move forward and needing to make a decision. So if you guys have that in your chart, most certainly check that out. And with Virgo, it's needing a little bit of time to grieve, but I feel for my Libras, you guys are ready to move forward. You guys are ready to move on, right? But with this tower here, this is more or less, and this is going to sound interesting. It almost feels to me, Libra, like, what is the word for that? Oh gosh, what is it? Premonition. That's what that looks like to me. And I don't think I've ever seen that in cards before. But with this Six of Swords next to this tower, this feels like a premonition. So it's almost like you guys sensing something before it actually happens, right? So with this tower, it doesn't necessarily have to be peril, misery, and woe and mayhem and things of the sort. I more or less look at the tower as a mental breakthrough. It's more or less the walls that we build up, the proverbial towers that we build up that are very much interrelated with defense mechanisms or things that we do to keep ourselves safe. And I'm more or less seeing the Six of Swords as like a premonition. So, I mean, for some of you, this could literally happen in a dream, or it's just where you are coming into April, or even if this started like in the latter part of March, it's almost as if you guys sensed this tower before it happened. And depending on when you watch this, you know, this it could be something that's already transpired. But I don't necessarily see it as a chaotic event. For some people, it could be. I don't really feel it that way. I really feel that this is a mental breakthrough. It's a shock. It's something that you didn't expect to happen, but it's transformative nonetheless. However, I feel in mind and behavior, it's almost as if you guys are prepared for this before it happens, if that makes sense. And that's why I say like premonition. It's almost like, it's like subconsciously, it's like you prepared yourself for this and didn't even realize it, if that's making sense. I think that would only make sense to the people who it makes sense for. It's interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah, that's really what I feel with that, Libra. That's very interesting to me to see that way. Because the only example I'm thinking of, because I'm sitting here trying to think of like a tangible example to show what I mean. And it would be something like, I don't know, and this is going to be so outrageous, but it's almost like if you're in a store and you don't have kids, right? And you're like walking in Walmart, you pass by the baby section and you just feel extremely compelled to like buy some little baby toy or something. And you're like, oh, you know, maybe I'll give it to such and such's baby. You know, you see a cute little baby dress or something. And then like a week later, you find out you're pregnant. You know, it's kind of like that vibe where you did something without thinking about it. And then like something happens, like it wasn't related to you before and suddenly it is, but it's like, it's a good thing of how it is that it moves forward. Now, the next card that came out for you guys is the Eight of Swords. Man, here's the dealio. The thing that I will say with this, because another way that, oh man, another way I can see this too is if you guys make a decision to move forward, right? So if we X out my first group of Libras, this is going to be interesting already. If we X out my first group of Libras and start off with a clean slate and say that, you know, you guys went through some stuff in March and now you're making a decision to say F it all and move forward. It's kind of like having this positive perception of how you expect things to go forward because you left something behind that you feel wasn't serving you, right? So even if we talk about the Libra full moon, like you release something that was no longer serving you and you decide to move forward to things that are, and then there's something shocking that happens, right? And inadvertently, you're placed into a mental prison with this Eight of Swords. And that also reminds me of what it is I was saying in Virgo's reading. So if you guys are Libra, Virgo cuspers, but not being able to move forward because it's almost this feeling of like, I did everything right. You know what I mean? Like I did the right thing. Like, how does this happen? It's like, I released the things that were no longer serving me. You know what I mean? It's like, how does something like this happen? You know? And then with this Nine of Wands in the reverse, it's almost as if this is like a triggering event, right? I don't even want to say triggering event because that would, if I say triggering event, that puts the responsibility on the event within itself being a trigger, but it's not that. It's like our triggers are about us. So even if another person triggers you, this is just a little something to put in the back pocket. Whether it's a person or it's a situation that triggers you, it's not the person, it's not the situation, right? It's us who is therefore in possession of the trigger. You know what I mean? And triggers are something that can be used for transformative purposes. We just have to be willing to see it. And here's the thing that I'm seeing, Libra, it's like as this is unfolding, and where this brings me back to that whole premonition thing that I was saying, if it isn't a literal premonition that a person has, this would be something where you entered into a situation and you may have seen a red flag, or you knew something was wrong and you kind of ignored it. So it's like there's certain things that were happening or different signs that were kind of popping up, and you just kind of decided to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? Or turn a blind eye to it. And I'm not saying that in like a negative fear with this, like, and what I mean by that is like not saying that like, oh my gosh, there was red flags everywhere and you blatantly were just like, I'm just going to pretend that this isn't happening. I'm not inferring that. But with this Nine of Wands, if I were to explain it as a mindset, it would be like a person who hasn't dated in a while, right? And then you start dating someone and there's certain things that they're doing that make you feel kind of uneasy. And like you telling yourself like, I'm tripping because, you know, I haven't been in a relationship in a while. I'm being over, you know, I'm overreacting. I'm making something out of nothing. It's like, I feel a mindset more or less like that. But these things that you guys were feeling, that unease that you guys were feeling, and whatever this is, whether it's a friendship, relationship, business partnership, job, it doesn't matter. It's almost like denying your gut instinct, because it's almost like on a gut level, you knew something was off and something was kind of like amiss, but it's almost trying to rationalize it of thinking that you're overreacting. So when this Tower happens, it puts you in a position to where, like I was saying for Virgo, like you don't know how to move forward from here. But the truth of the matter is it's tapping back into your emotions, which does go back to what I was saying for Virgo, because Virgo's entire reading was about not skipping forward and making everything okay. You know what I mean? Like you went through something that hurt you. something where you need time to grieve. It's not about saying like, oh, bump that, I'm not worried about that, I'm moving forward, I got better things to worry about, because that's not helping you. Their whole reading was centralized around a process of grief and needing to grieve, needing to feel their feelings, needing to cry if they need to, or being able to just express themselves to their friends and not having to pretend to be okay. Because I feel if you guys don't do that, right, it's more or less vacating your emotions, retreating to your head space, and refusing to acknowledge the emotional space. Because what lies beneath those emotions that one may be feeling, or why one has a tendency to retreat into their headspace, is because of a fear of triggers, a fear of, or when you feel triggered, you retreat. You know what I'm saying? It could be one way or the other. It's like not wanting to feel those feelings, because it's almost like a mindset or a perception of emotions equal weakness, or being disempowered, or I don't want people to know that I'm hurt, or I don't want this other person to know that I'm hurt because that makes me weak. It's kind of the perception that I get of it. But just like with a lot of signs I've read for this month so far, it's almost as if this feminine aspect, these emotions, your intuition, all of these things are important, because that in essence is your deliverance. So in the bigger scheme of things, in a spiritual sense, this tower happening is literally liberating you and setting you free. You know what I mean? It makes me think about what my granny used to always say, where she would say, sometimes God has to let us hit rock bottom, because once you hit rock bottom, the only place that you can look is up at God, in so many words. You know what I'm saying? And not saying, like, once again, y'all have to understand how my belief system set up. I don't believe that spirit does things to us. You know what I'm saying? I am not from that school of thought, but I believe that spirit works through different situations, circumstances, and experiences to help us grow and evolve and learn lessons. But the main thing that I'm seeing here, Libra, is there's a level of avoidance. And it's like this situation, this shock, is being used as a situation that rocks you to the core, that allows you to get down to what really matters. Because I feel if not, or if you guys find yourself in this position a lot with this Two of Swords, is more or less being in a stalemate. And the reason why there's an inability to move forward, or not knowing how to move forward, or not knowing what direction to go into, because it's a refusal to tap into those emotions. So what this would be looking like to me is solving problems by intellectualizing them. You know what I'm saying? Like, this person bad, this person good. This job bad, this job good, right? Bad job, good job, go from bad job to good job, you know, but not acknowledging your emotions in the space of that. Now, granted, I know that with Libra being an air sign, and I can sort of kind of relate because I am a Gemini rising. So being an air sign, you have a tendency to lean more towards intellectualizing things, which is totally normal. However, just because of our signs in our chart, and we have a natural propensity towards certain things, you know what I mean? Like fire signs, all about that action. You know what I'm saying? Earth signs are all about that consistency. You know what I mean? It's like we like stuff, things, tangible. You know, water signs, all emotional. You know what I'm saying? Wanting to feel and all of that, you know? And air signs like to think because that's the safe space. But even though that's your natural inclination and your natural strength, right? You can't completely negate your emotions in the midst of that. You know what I'm saying? When we talk about personal development or personal growth or spiritual growth, right? Even if we think about it from a psychological sense, if you think about the Myers-Briggs personality assessment, I'm an INFJ, you know, but when you get your personality type, so if we use Myers-Briggs, for example, if you know your personality type, the purpose of knowing that is not to just say, like for me, I'm an INFJ and that's who I am and that's who I'm always gonna be. You know what I'm saying? No, that's my natural inclination. That's how I operate just by default, right? But the purpose of personal development or even spiritual development is looking at what my weak points are. I'm an introvert. Like when I'm around people, I lose energy. I gain energy being alone. So that doesn't mean that I just completely X out any introvert qualities. That's an area in which I'm weak that I want to learn to strengthen. So it's spending time with people knowing what my limits are, making a decision to take a step back so I can recharge. You know, by default, I rely on intuition, you know, like inner knowing, right? That combined with my feelings aspect and my introverted aspect means that whenever I'm intaking information, I'm always seeing it from my perspective. You know what I'm saying? So it's me relating it back to like the whole database of information that I have. And then once I get like a file from my proverbial database, then I'm comparing it out to everyone else. But my first thought isn't, how does that person think or feel? Because I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what another person thinks or feels. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, if I was in a similar situation, this, and, you know, clients I've had, or when my brother or my sister or my mom, my dad, my best friend, when they were in a situation similar to that, this is how they felt. And it's like putting that together and then, you know, presenting it to the person. It's like, you know, how are you feeling? It's not about what I think that you think and feel, but how are you feeling? And it's like, a person I know or I've been there before that's been in a similar situation. This is how they handled it type of deal, you know? But it wouldn't kill me to learn how people who are on the other side of that, me being a feeler, how thinkers operate, or people who are more sensory, how they operate. It's like me learning those parts where I'm weak just makes me stronger and more holistically strong as an individual. Now, I say all of that to say, Libra, that granted, intellectualizing things can be helpful, right? That's your natural propensity. However, you are still a human being that has emotions and feelings. Not saying that you need to live in them or, you know, maneuver through life through them, or to vacate the fact that, you know, by nature you default back to thinking about things or intellectualizing things. But I feel a lot of what it is that's keeping you guys stuck or puts you in positions to where you don't know how to move forward is because you're trying to solve an emotional problem. Like hypothetically speaking, you're trying to solve an emotional problem with a very intellectual mindset that is logical and analytical and doesn't really take emotions into account. You know what I'm saying? So I feel in situations where either it's you guys getting premonitions, like I said, if it's like intuitive hits, if it's gut feelings or what have you, it's resorting to intellectualizing. Or when you're feeling emotions, it's intellectualizing. And I think that's like a pattern that happens that keeps you guys stuck. You know what I'm saying? And not saying that you're literally stuck. I don't know why it's like, I feel like I'm apologizing like so much this month. I don't know what it is, but it's intellectualizing those feelings, and that's what's keeping you stuck. But not saying, it's like I'm giving 50 disclaimers. It's not saying that you're literally stuck in your life, right? Or like nothing in your life is working. It's not saying that. It's just that whoever would resonate with this feels like they're kind of on a loop-de-loop with that. You know what I'm saying? When you get disappointed about something, like it's either you miss signs of something, when something happens and you get triggered, or something happens that you were shocked about. Sometimes it relates back to a gut instinct that you ignored because you were intellectualizing your feelings and saying that you're overreacting. And then sometimes past tense, after things like that happen, because one is refusing to drop into their emotional space, or, you know, for some of you, meditate, consult spirit on it, whatever the case may be, it ends up being stuck because you're trying to solve a problem with the same mind that created it. You know what I'm saying? Which is a quote by Einstein. So this is really more or less about with this world card being here. And that's Aquarius energy, Scorpio energy, Taurus energy, and Leo energy. All of this is speaking to a transition or a transformation that's happening. So to pretty much encapsulate this reading, Libra, and I hope and pray that it's making sense, but to pretty much encapsulate this reading, this would say to me that everything prior to this, right? If we just looked at March, or if we looked at the last year or whatever, however this fits into your life, this is really speaking to a karmic cycle that's ending for you guys. So all in all, there was a very valuable lesson that was intended to be learned here. But what this Tower Spirit is trying to set you free so you don't carry that forward with you. You know what I mean? Meaning in the sense of, when we're wounded or when we're scarred or marred or disappointed in life or what have you from our different experiences, we have a tendency to carry those wounds with us forward. This is an opportunity for you guys to more or less be released from whatever this situation is or come to a place of clarity about it, right? And to not carry it forward or let it to define you, if that's making sense. That's really what I'm trying to say here. I don't know what it is, dude. It's been like this since I did Virgo, which was the sign before y'all. And then coming into Libra, it's like this energy that I'm in, dude, where it's this feeling of like unsure or like insecurity, you know what I'm saying? And not really like apologizing before I even say anything. And I've been feeling that since Virgo. And it's almost like not even having like a clear, like a clear stream of thought almost, you know, because it's almost like second guessing. It's like taking a step forward and then backstepping, taking a step forward and backstepping. Like that's the energy that I've been feeling since I did Virgo, you know? But all in all, what I'm trying to say here, Libra, that's important is you guys are going into a new cycle. And this is just more or less reflecting, like seeing where it is that you are now and looking back at what it is that you've experienced up to this point and seeing the lesson in it. But I would say from my perspective, yeah. And then you have the 8 of Wands and the reverse at the bottom of your deck. So that's like a pause. So again, it takes me back to what I was saying with Virgo, whether you guys have that in your chart or if you're a cusper, I would totally look at that. This is like a pause of like, you cannot pass go and collect $200 in so many words. It's like everything that transpired here, this is something that needs to be dealt with. And I feel that there's layers to it, you know, like regardless of what the extenuating circumstances are of how it is that you got here or why, whether it was you not listening to your gut and ending up in that situation, whether it's something falling apart and you getting triggered or whatever the case may be, whatever the specifics are irrelevant. The whole premise is that this is a cycle that continuously repeats itself of you guys being in situations that are uncomfortable or like tumultuous or, you know, you feeling some type of way and ignoring your feelings, intellectualizing it, or getting triggered in situations and running. And this is another kind of play out of that. But the thing that Spirit is trying to help you guys with this month is not falling back into that same pattern of ignoring what you're feeling, going and retreating into your head and saying, you know, that was this is that, I don't care, I'm good, I'm moving forward, because it isn't serving you in the sense that you keep ending up here. You know what I'm saying? So continuously ending up here isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just a cycle of lessons that you guys needed to learn in reference to this, which means that whatever this core root of the issue is that this 9 of Wands is representing, because I feel that's kind of like the underlying energy that's playing itself out in your experiences in so many words, is getting to the root of that. Now, what I'm saying from my perspective of why it's difficult to say something like that, which is why I've been literally telling everyone about getting a therapist this month, is because it's not fair to say, oh, this is what's going on. And me being aware that this is so much deeper than just like, oh, I'm not going to intellectualize my emotions anymore. You know what I mean? It's like with the 9 of Wands in the reverse, I always see it as a defense mechanism. That's the same card that came up in Virgo. It's like, there's a reason why you guys intellectualize, because it's safer. You know what I mean? It's how you keep yourself safe, right? But the Tower, of course, speaks to what would be considered maladaptive coping mechanisms, which means it served a purpose in the past. It kept you safe in the past, but now it's keeping you prisoner to where all you can do is go around the mulberry bush yet again. So all in all, what this is saying, Libra, is this month is not about just moving forward. You're coming into the month with the mindset to just move forward. And I feel that's what you guys have been doing every single time you're disappointed or triggered or what have you. It's the mindset is like, just move forward. But every time you move forward, it's like putting concrete over the same, like, you know, patch of weeds, and the weeds are growing through the concrete. And when the weeds start growing through the concrete, the thought is, oh, let me go get more concrete and slather another slab on there. And that ultimately turned into a tower, right? So hopefully I'm communicating properly. But what the whole point is, this Eight of Wands in the reverse is saying, yeah, you want to move forward, but that's not what the MO is for this month. The MO for this month is breaking down this tower and dealing with the weeds, right? The plan was never to keep buying concrete and getting reward points at Home Depot. I don't even know if Home Depot has reward points, but it was not about getting reward points at Home Depot for all of the concrete that you have purchased. That was never the case. The whole case was to deal with the weeds, deal with the problem once and for all, and you won't even need the concrete is pretty much the vibe that I'm getting here. Because ignoring your emotions, not wanting to drop into them or wanting to just move on to the next thing, that tower is like all of the interest that all of these emotions that have not been processed have built up into. And this is like a blessing in a sense of saying, no, we're not moving forward. We're going to deal with this before one does move forward. And as I always say, if this is something, if you don't have the like the coping skills or the self-analysis or self-inquiry skills in order to do so, this would be a great month to decide to start working through this stuff with a therapist. You know, it does not have to be me. It can be anyone. You know what I'm saying? Because I say the thing I feel bad about is saying all of this and knowing this is not something that a person can do on their own. You know what I'm saying? Like how I say you cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created it. That's something that I live my life by. If I go through something in my life, you know, and I realize I don't have coping skills for it, even as a therapist, I would go see a therapist. You know what I'm saying? It's like, because I don't know how to process this. Like everything that I learned in therapy before ain't working right now. You know what I'm saying? If it's something I've never been through, and there's no shame in that. I tell that to my clients all the time. There's lots of therapists that see other therapists. That's what we're supposed to do, because you can't, you need to practice what you preach. You can't tell other people that, oh, going to a therapist would be great, but see me, you know, I'm so healed and so elevated that I never need to talk to anyone to process my emotions, even when I go through traumas. You know what I'm saying? No, that's not the case. So the whole thing I'm saying is invest in yourself, Libra, because this is something, it's a cycle you guys were in. This cycle is wrapping up, but you owe it to yourself to deal with this once and for all, so you don't have to carry this energy into the next cycle, my friend. Child, I hope and pray that that made sense, Libra. We gonna see. I love your face. I'm going over to my network to do you guys extended. So if you're about that life, follow me on over there. If not, I still love your face. And I'll see you guys sooner than later. Get your Wokebook. Love your face.